Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games. But before I get started, quick mention again that it is super busy for me at my real life work, and it is going to remain that way at least up until next week as well. So I have been pretty low energy and some of the videos have been somewhat more low effort. I'm just trying to keep up with a video a day. If I don't succeed, you know why that is. It's because I am really busy at the moment. But I did manage to play some EVE Online, so let's get started with that. Did the usual, a little bit of PI, a little bit of BPC sales. In fact, I had to do 2 trips to keep my contract somewhat in order, so that has been making me a decent amount of ISK. Still going pretty well, but I must say the fact that I've got those 4 Orca BPCs that run every single week, they still make me really steady, very nice ISK in my opinion. PI is a bit of a mixed picture. If you saw EVE Doc, you know that the fuel related PI materials like the coolants and mechanical parts are struggling a little bit, while the other PI materials are recovering from being in a bad place. So it's definitely a mixed picture. At the moment I'm still waiting for better prices, basically, generally with what I'm making. At least there are some exceptions of course in the PI market, but the general vibe is that we're definitely staying under the averages at the moment. Next to that, well, a bit more exploration. That's really all I managed to do because of my tiredness when I come home. Honestly guys, I really don't have a lot of energy left, so that is when I go out for some relaxed exploration in the Ishtar. Still absolutely enjoy that. It is still my favorite go-to playstyle. If I want something a bit more intense, then I try to do a couple of conduits at the moment, so I am looking forward to the Invasion Chapter 2 and what kind of content will be available there. Solo, in group, we'll see how all of that works out as well, of course. But for now, when I am in this situation, then I do just fall back to my exploration activities. Got pretty lucky, couple of 4 out of 10s in systems where I did not expect them, and got like a couple 100 million plus drops. One that was 198, of course. When you get a repper, a faction repper, that's worth a lot of ISK at the moment in the game. So that's pretty awesome. Felt like it was time well spent and pretty efficient when it comes to the ISK making there as well. So that was pretty damn good. And then I watched EVE London, so there was like a 1-hour talk a little bit about the plans and the past, present and future, as it usually is when CCP gives a non-official keynote. It didn't really feel like it was really structured, like they were making big announcements, but they gave us lots of little hints as to what's to come. Something they were pretty mysterious about is like a market upgrade. I think it is just going to be the trade plex anywhere without having to basically use it as a physical item anymore. I think you could see that it becomes a sort of a cryptocurrency that you can just trade online, and so they're making a sort of a relay that it becomes one huge market, but I think it's going to be limited to plex at this point. We'll see if I'm right or not. It should be on CC next week if that still holds up. So that's pretty cool. We get the next chapter in the invasion, of course. I'm really curious about that one. We'll have to make a choice. We'll have to either help the empires or help the Triglavians. Sounds pretty interesting and pretty unique. The one thing, of course, that we'll figure out pretty quickly is, are there consequences tied to those choices, or is this something where they're giving us 2 paths and then we can basically choose, or can you start to build up a reputation with the Triglavians? There was one sentence I didn't really see it get picked up on like the subreddit or anything like that, but from CCP Burger, and it was when he was talking about the lore and everything that's happening with the Triglavians with CCP Hilmar, and he said, how else are the Triglavians going to carve out their own space? So I thought that was very interesting and very telling for the future of the storyline there. I really think that the Triglavians are going to become the 5th race, and that eventually they'll make their way into New Eden itself, not just in abyssal space. So it sounds really cool in my opinion, and I am absolutely looking forward to that. There's some other small things like the wallet revamp that I'm actually looking forward to as well, and well, keep up the updates. We'll see how that works out. They're even targeting the structures as well, trying to make them a little bit less defensible, I think is gonna be the goal. So yeah, pretty good week, I would say, for me for EVE Online, despite the fact that I'm basically super tired every single evening when I come home. Next up, we have the Darkest Dungeon. That has been going pretty well as well. Honestly, the game has its hooks in me, but it is offline, of course. So, you know, you can just play this at your own pace. And so I can, at this point, pace myself well enough with Darkest Dungeon. I basically do maybe 1 or 2 dungeons a day or something like that, just to slowly keep going. If I'm really tired, I just go easy mode, right? I take some level 3, level 4 heroes into some level 1 dungeons just to grind a little bit of gold, try to get the next upgrades in the guild and in the blacksmith, so that I can make my best heroes more powerful. Gold, super important. It takes a lot out of you, but you can absolutely pace yourself. If you want to, you can just fire up the game, play 1 dungeon, maybe half an hour or something like that, and then that's it for today, and we're going to continue the next day. So that is pretty nice, of course. Unlike like an online game, an MMO that you pay a sub for, you really don't have that pressure to do big grinds right now, or to try to compete with other players. You can enjoy the game at your own pace. So it's really the right game at the right time for me personally, because I come home, I do a little bit of EVE Online. Well, it was up until last week, it was mostly getting in there, getting those bonus skill points, PI, BBCs and things like that. Right now it is, alright, do I feel like a bit of exploration? Okay, we'll do a small round, a medium round, something like that. And then get into a little bit of Darkest Dungeon, and then I can just, you know, I'm relaxed for the rest of the evening, and I'm ready for the next day. So it's really great, but it's really all I managed to do. EVE Online and the Darkest Dungeon. For the Darkest Dungeon is a pretty damn fun game. I think there's gonna be like a real narrative, of course, that's going to build as I get through to more and more bosses. Although at the pace I'm playing it, of course, I tend to forget what's happening, but I'm sure that we'll get quite a bit of lore explanation there as well. And it is a pretty demanding game, but playing it on the easiest setting, which is what I'm doing now for my first playthrough, does mean that it is very doable. This doesn't feel like it is overly punishing me. Sometimes, in fact, I'm super lucky with the dodges and things like that, getting rid of diseases. I quite often get nice bonuses so that I can do that for free and things like that. So it feels like here you are indeed in the easiest setting, and it is not too demanding difficulty wise. Time wise, it is going to end up to be quite a few hours, I think, just to get my heroes with the strongest, their strongest abilities and a full armor, which I think you'll need to advance, because I did try the farmstead again, and yeah, that's just really hard to grab the necessary crystals in order to be able to use those blueprints, which I still haven't really been able to figure out at this point. But very fun game, the Darkest Dungeon. Definitely something that, in my opinion, you should put on your wish list, just because of how accessible it is. On the easiest setting, it's very doable, as I've said, and then you can really pace yourself. If you want to, you can play half an hour a day and still feel like you're making progress, like you're working towards something. Very satisfying at this point, and I'm absolutely enjoying it. And then we have one more thing that I joined, which is the EVE Aether Wars demo. It was the final one. Basically, I didn't join the other two because those fell in pretty bad time slots for me. Not much that I can do about that, but this was the final one. I think one of the lowest numbers, like 1700 or something like that. Honestly, not that surprising if you think about it. It is just a tech demo. I'm definitely not going to say that it was fun or exciting, or that I felt like, all right, we've got a game here or anything like that. No, this is really just a stress test, basically, for some new technology. And so doing 3 of those back to back to back, basically you can see the interest dropping. You cannot keep hype for such a long period for something that is basically just an experiment where you're asking for lots of computing power to be thrown at your system. So in the end, I personally feel like this final test was pretty impressive from the technical standpoint, because it held up really well. I had a good experience when it no lag, no tie-dye. I could target stuff, I could fire at stuff, I could use all of the abilities, and they just worked as expected. All the feedback that I got from everything that I did in the game felt right to me. Now I was completely unprepared, so I wasn't even able to really move my ship right because my keybinds are actually messed up because I'm on like an EU keyboard that's got like the US layout or something like that. So it felt kind of weird having to try to manage it, and so I did terribly when it comes to the gameplay itself. And it's not like super fun, super clear either, right? There's definitely lots of UI improvements that you could do, but for a battlefield with up to 1700 players in it, at the same time, the performance, which is of course the whole goal of this tech demo, is to show this new technology that can potentially make huge battles possible. From that standpoint, I must say that this felt very successful. At the very end, there were like some graphical things happening that almost caused me seizures, so that was a little bit too much. I'm not sure if it was bugs or if it was basically an effect that was done to maybe add stress and things like that. But that started to be a little bit uncomfortable, and on a couple of occasions there were big lag spikes and there was some rubber banding that I could see from the others, but we got through that pretty nicely, and for I would say most of the time, I was there for like the whole hour, most of the time it was smooth, it was responsive, and it was working well, yeah, no crashes, nothing like that either. I just got in when it started. I'm not sure exactly how long it took, like maybe a minute or so for me to get through the queue, and then I could just keep going up until the end of the tech demo. So yeah, from the technical standpoint, pretty impressive. Don't expect like a fun game or anything like that from there. There's potential in there that I do see, honestly. So I was pretty impressed, and I was actually pretty happy that I could join that final test for the EVE Aether Wars. And that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.